Before you read, I'm a new writer and this is my first story. If you have any tips for writing horror stories, LMK. It was a Saturday morning. I woke up excited. Today I was going over to my girlfriend's house. I woke up around 6 a.m. Took a shower and watched some YouTube. It was around 12 p.m. when my girlfriend's mom arrived to pick me up. We sat in the car catching up, chatting and laughing. When we arrived at her house, we sat and watched our favorite shows. After a while, we got out of her bed and relaxed with her brother and his girlfriend. We watched the first Conjuring movie. I felt like a real man, having her hold me when she got scared. It was nice. We decided we wanted to go on a walk, just me and her, as we made our way to a nearby park. I got this weird feeling we were being watched. It was really unsettling. The cold wind felt like the cold breath of someone behind me, watching, waiting. The wind had a discomforting feeling to it, as if you could hear whispers in the passing air. Finally, we had arrived at the park. I felt her hand tense up, holding mine. She seemed to be scared, too. We walked to this park bench, sat down, and held hands. As we sat down, I went in for a kiss, but was interrupted. From the woods behind us, I heard a glass breaking scream, like someone was being brutally stabbed. Reluctantly, I walk over to the woods. "What are you doing? Are you some kind of idiot?" "Isaac, you hear a scream and you follow it." Jaden seemed annoyed, rightfully so, but I couldn't just leave knowing someone was hurt and needed us. What if it's just some old lady who fell and broke her leg or something? "We should go check it out." Reluctantly, Jaden followed Isaac into the woods. As we stepped into the woods, the sticks like broken bones cracking under our feet, the wind like the murmurs of a distant conversion, we felt this strong presence, as if your parents were staring at you, but you didn't quite know it. We got deeper into the woods, and I was starting to regret my choice to come in the first place. Out of nowhere, coming as a complete surprise, we had found the source of the scream. We now really wished we hadn't. As you look up at this, maybe 70 feet tall pine tree, starting at the very top and leading to the bottom, was a trail of blood and organs, like a balloon full of red food dye had been popped. Laying at the bottom of the tree, a mangled mess of the corpse of whatever had screamed in the first place. We didn't know why or how, but what we did know is we had to get the fuck out of there. As we booked it through the woods, we felt like we weren't alone anymore. No, we knew we weren't. Footsteps like hammers hitting the ground followed behind us. As we ran, we made a terrifying discovery. We went too deep. We were lost. We struggled to get away from whatever was following us. When we felt it was safe, we stopped and hid in some shrubs under a tree. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I'm gonna get us killed," Isaac said through tear-filled eyes. "Look at me and shut up. We are gonna survive me, and you are gonna get home and we are gonna be fine. I just need you to be strong." Isaac looked up, a newfound strength in him. They got up and began looking for a way out. As we marched through the woods, we heard the thing that was following us again, but this time not only was it heard, but it was seen. As we passed a tree, we looked back to see this monster, a mass of flesh like broken bones, and flesh sewn to a clump of organs, at least 7 feet tall in height. Jaden stepped on a stick, cracking and breaking just a little too loud. Oh, fuck. The beast began charging us, damn near knocking over the trees in its wake. Isaac and Jaden ran desperately, trying to escape its grasp, but they weren't fast enough. Isaac's feet were pulled underneath him and he was dragged away, but Jaden managed to grab him. Luckily, they were next to a canyon in the woods, and the beast fell back, tumbling like a rock down a staircase. Isaac and Jaden kept running on foot, only stopping when Isaac passed out. He fell to the ground, too weak to stand. It was probably because of the adrenaline, but they only just noticed a giant gash in his leg. It was bad. You could see bone. It wasn't looking good. "I'm not gonna sit here and let you die. Not when I'm the one who brought you here. Just leave without me." "I'll yell and make a distraction, maybe. I can't live, but you can," Eric said through labored breaths. "No," Jaden snapped. "I will not leave you here like roadkill. We are leaving together." She shed a tear, and the guilt for bringing her here only grew. "Well then, let's start finding a way out." Isaac and Jaden began to walk again at a slow pace. Isaac was in a lot of pain, each step sending a shooting pain throughout his body. Isaac leaned on Jaden for support. He was sure to fall without her. They tried to head back in the direction of where the park was. Just as things got more desperate, Jaden had an idea. We could follow the moon back. It had been to the north, and we began in that direction. Not too far from the tree with the body, they're closing in on the park. Just as the tree with the body was in sight, Isaac collapsed again. "I won't let you die, please. Leave and live. If not for me, then do it for you." Isaac was a mess of tears, a husk, covered in the guilt of bringing her here. "How many times do I have to say this?" "I will not leave you now. Stand up. We are leaving," they both cried. "Hey, Jaden," Isaac asked. "Yeah," she replied. "Can I hug you? If I die, I want to hold you one last time," he said as a tear ran down his dirt-covered face, leaves and pine needles trapped in his hair. "You can hug me when we get out of here now. Get up, I won't ask again." As they approached the tree with the body, a horrific discovery was made. The body was gone. All that was left was a clump of teeth, blood, and stomach bile. They looked into the distance. Now in the foreground was two massive beasts, standing at 7 feet tall. As they looked closer, they didn't believe their eyes. The second beast was the body of the woman, like a puppeteered corpse stretched to 7 feet tall. Isaac held Jaden's mouth, worried a scream may leave her lips. "That thing. It made another one." She looked down at my leg. "You don't think it will happen to you, will it?" she asked with a wave of worry, washing her face. "I don't know, but let's leave before we find out." We made our way past the tree where the body was found. We were about a 10-minute walk away from the entrance of the woods. As we grew near, the last thing they wanted to hear began. Not just one set of footsteps, but two. A rhythmic beating in the soil. A song that would mean the end of both of us. As these monsters grew closer, Isaac grew desperate. He pushed Jaden to keep going and ran in another direction, hitting trees and throwing rocks as he went. His plan worked. Jaden was free to run the exit to the woods, and the light shining from the nearby street pole from the park was the only guide out. Jaden stopped, looked back, and began calling for Isaac. "Isaac, are you okay? Hurry, please, I won't leave you." You could hear a faint yelling in the distance. "You need to go. It's all gonna be over." He was abruptly interrupted. All that could be heard was a scream, and a splat like rotten fruit slammed on the concrete. She ran away with tears in her eyes. She had feared the worst, and rightfully so. Isaac's words playing on a loop in her head. "Live, if not for me, then for you." She feared he was gone. Just as she reached the park, she looked back, and that same glass-breaking scream from the bench was heard again. But this time there were 3 of them. They gone. Isaac, he was gone. I don't know what happened, how it did, or why, but what I do know is that's the last time I take a walk in the woods. Hello, I work for the University of Michigan State as an IPF custodial worker. I'm here to share my experiences at the Michigan State Warden Center. Keep in mind, I'm new to Reddit and new to this job, recently being hired on 27 January. It was a normal shift, getting used to the unfamiliar building on 29 January. I was tasked with cleaning and restocking the bathrooms on the first floor. As I am heading back to grab more supplies from a nearby closet, I hear some woman in my ear say, "Hey." I turn around to see the back half of a woman entering the woman's bathroom. I concerned that it is nearing 3 in the morning, that there should be no one in the building but authorized staff. I enter the bathroom to confront the woman. She was nowhere to be seen. Another experience which happened early February. Me and my coworkers were sitting in the break room when all of a sudden a voice of a male asked what we were doing. Yet again, there should be no one in the building by authorized personnel, keep in mind. It's 2 in the morning and the day shift arrives at 7. We checked the halls, there was no one there. And finally, as I'm writing this happened no less than 3 hours ago. I am currently back from my shift. We are doing a rundo. You win, locking things up and turning off the lights. Around 5 in the morning, there is a ballet practice room on the second floor, left to the break room. The lights were on and unlocked. After being locked and the lights turned off no less than an hour ago, we relock it and turn the lights off, continue with our rundown, which takes 15 to 20 minutes. We come back. The door is wide open, despite still being locked, and the lights are on. I will continue to keep you posted on strange happenings. I jolted awake, not to an alarm, but to the distinct sound of breathing. Not mine. I tried to turn my head, but my body wouldn't move. My chest felt pinned beneath an invisible weight, and my limbs cemented to the mattress. Panic surged, tightening around me like a noose. Not this again. I just had to wait it out, a helpless prisoner in my own skin. But then the breathing changed. It hitched, as if something was surprised I was awake. My room was dark, but not empty, and in the corner something shifted. A silhouette peeled itself from the shadows, slow and deliberate. It was tall and impossibly thin, and wrong, its joints bending in ways that should be impossible. My pulse hammered in my ribs like a trapped bird, but I couldn't close my eyes, couldn't look away. The figure took a step forward, then another. The air turned thick and foul with the scent of decay. My lungs burned with the effort to scream, but only silence choked out. The figure loomed over me now, close enough that I could make out the shape of its face, if it even had one. Its features swam and flickered and melted into each other, as if my mind refused to comprehend them. I felt its breath against my cheek, cold and damp, as a whisper slithered into my ear. I like this body. Maybe I'll stay. My finger twitched, just a little, but it was just enough. I focused. All my strength, willing movement back into my limbs. My pinky jerked, then my wrist, then my arm. The thing above me snarled, its voice like rusty metal scraping against bone. My lungs unlocked, and with a ragged gasp, I bolted upright. The room was empty, but the scent of rot lingered. Today, me and one of my friends were walking out of our house to go on a walk. Immediately when we left our house, we saw a man who appeared to be walking a cat/dog. But it looked totally off. I could only see a shadow of a dog, and it quickly vanished out of thin air. My friend was also staring at this man and noticed he had no shadow, but it was like his shadow was this animal, which then disappeared and his normal shadow reappeared. These were such distinct shapes and movements which had both me and my friend staring. I quickly glanced, and this man was staring back at us. We stopped and waited until a man who was a few meters away passed by the same spot to make sure it was not some sort of lighting/warp of the road trick. The man who passed had just a normal shadow. Her current theory is that this could be a shapeshifter with a delayed shadow. I do not believe in the paranormal, so I cannot pinpoint what it could be. Also, this happened to us after discussing religions heavily today, which freaked us out even more. Does anyone have an explanation for what it could possibly be? In 2049, humanity survived through steel and circuitry. The air had turned to poison decades ago, filled with micropollutants and airborne pathogens that rotted the lungs within weeks. The only way to stay alive was through augmentation. Cybernetic lungs, synthetic blood filters, and neural stabilizers to keep the mind clear despite the toxins swirling outside. The city of New Seattle hummed with artificial life. Skyscrapers stretched into the smog, their glass facades reflecting the neon glow of an eternal twilight. Street level was a graveyard of the past, littered with rusted-out cars and old-world shops long abandoned. The people who walked the streets were barely people anymore. Chrome hands, synthetic eyes, reinforced bones. Those who couldn't afford the upgrades were already dead. Elliot moved through the streets like a ghost, his coat pulled tight against the acidic drizzle. His internal HUD flickered warnings about air quality. But it was pointless. His cybernetic lungs filtered out the worst of it. He had long stopped thinking of himself as human. None of them were, not really. A message pulsed in his vision, a broadcast overriding his neural display. To those who still call themselves human, we grieve for you. We V for what you have become. Elliot frowned. Hacker groups were common, activists who believed the world could still be salvaged, that nature could reclaim what had been lost. But this was different. The feed expanded, showing a group of masked figures standing in what looked like an old military bunker. Behind them, a terminal blinked with familiar symbols, nuclear command interfaces. "We are the last breath of a dying world," the voice continued, "and we refuse to watch the Earth be devoured by metal and greed. The planet was never meant to sustain this mockery of life. It is time to let go, time to end what should have ended long ago." Elliot's fingers twitched. Panic crept up his spine. They wouldn't. The camera feed shifted to a map of the world, glowing red points flashing across continents. Pulse bombs. Electromagnetic warheads, meant to disable entire power grids, destroy infrastructure, wipe out everything dependent on technology. And in 2049, that meant wiping out life itself. Elliot sprinted toward the nearest shelter, but he knew it was useless. His heart, his lungs, his very ability to think, everything ran on circuits. Everyone he knew, everyone in the world, was wired into the same fragile system. A countdown appeared in the broadcast feed. 0, 10. People around him were screaming, running, but there was nowhere to go. Some clawed at their own bodies, as if they could tear out the wires, make themselves flesh again. 0, 3. Elliot stopped running. There was no point. He looked up at the sky where the smog curled like dying breath. For the first time in years, he wondered if there were still stars up there. 0, 0. And then the world went dark.